Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is Sunday morning, so the start of a new week. It is not overly cold this morning. It's about 9 degrees. It's not too bad in my kitchen, but cold enough that, I put a jumper on. I still got jammy pants and slippers on, which you can't see, but I put a jumper on and my beanie. And I'm a little bit sniffly because just that's the kind of weather when it's, warmer at other times and cold at this time of day. So I've got the kettle on for coffee, but I grabbed my camera and mic because I noticed that my starter is looking really happy. So it's well and truly doubled, and it's got all these lovely bubbles in it. I don't need bread for eating specifically today. We still have a slab of slider rolls from last week that I can turn into Hawaiian roll style. I don't know what they're called. I need to look that up. I'm calling them the American Hawaiian style roll slab things because every time I've seen them made, it's been like an American YouTube family or something who's made them, and they buy the Hawaiian rolls from somewhere and they use the Hawaiian rolls, which are like a sweet brioche roll from what I can tell anyway. So those. So I've got a slab of those that I can make lunch with today. And we've got leftover pasta from dinner last night. So I don't need bread as such today, but I could start a couple of sourdough loaves and see how I go. That can proof during the day as it warms up. I can turn my proofing box on, and then they can go in the fridge overnight, and I can bake them off tomorrow to eat. We are hiring a little mini Dingo dozer thing for a week. Darryl is picking it up tomorrow on his way home, so it's going to be a bit of a topsy-turvy week with that, because we're going to have to be, we need to utilise that as much as possible because we're paying for it to have it for a week. So that's going to be like the thing. I was hoping when he came back we'd get this wall done, but because we're hiring the Dingo, we'll have to do the Dingo first and then we'll move onto the wall. But the Dingo was important for clearing some space around the house, which you do over the cool seasons in preparation for bushfire seasons, is try and put a little bit of a perimeter around the house. But we also need to dig a leachate pit for Mum and one for us for when we install the new composting toilets. So we need to clear that space where we're going to put that bathroom, need to dig that trench and things like that. We might use it to tidy up some of the space where we want to put the gardens. There's lots of things that we need to do, create some pathways and things like that. So it's going to be a busy week with that. I don't know what I'm going to film or how I'm going to film it, and what's going to go on with that. We haven't planned in depth when the next shopping trip is going to be, but that's still like 4 weeks away, so that's fine. But yeah, so while I was, I just came out and I thought the kettle's on. Normally I have a quiet morning on a Sunday morning because Darryl and a bunch of the kids go to church, but he's not here, so all the kids are home with me. So it's not going to be my normal quiet Sunday morning, unfortunately. So yeah, I just happened to walk past my starter. I actually walked past it last night and sat there and went, I really should do something with it tonight. And I'm very glad that it's been cold enough that it has not fallen overnight. It is still nice and bubbly. I did make it's a stiff starter. The ratio of flour to water, flour is higher than the water, and that's because it gives it some strength to tolerate the colder temperatures. If you do a loose starter, like a wet starter, I do find that they will rise and fall really easily and really quickly, and that doesn't work for timeline for me at the moment. Kettle's boiling. So yeah, I find that by making a stiff starter with the fluctuations in temperature that I have, it maintains its structure a little bit better. The soft wet starters are really good if you're going to use it quick, because it'll double really nice and quickly, but it'll fall really quickly too. So it's really good if it's a really warm day and I want to bake the bread that day in summer. I can sometimes feed it of a morning, and by the afternoon it's ready to go. Sort of 6 hours later, it's ready to go and be used, especially if it's that slack sort of a texture. So I know I've been doing anyone who's only been around recently, I've been doing mostly yeasted breads for the last couple of years, but I did spend a lot of time studying the way starters work and aligning it with the way we did things. I've got a whole video about creating routines where it becomes family life with sourdough, but I fell off, and it was fine. I'm happy to use yeast as well, but it is nice to get to make some bread with the starter. So, we are gonna just see how we go. Depends on timelines and stuff. So, but anyway, I'm gonna mix up 2 of my standard loaves just to go in the bread bakers, and we'll see how they go throughout the day. But yeah, I don't know what else I'm doing, so I'll just bring you along. But this is the start of a new week. I'm just doing my normal. I've got 375 grams of liquid. I've got about 10 grams of the garlic, rosemary, olive oil, and then the rest in water. And then we're just going to see how it's got some really nice, can I get it to show you? It's got some really nice gluten structure in there. So let's try a little dollop and see if it floats. That's always a good sign. It's not a lot of there's not a lot of water in here, so it makes it harder to see, but I don't know if it's floating. Not quite. It's still got a sink on it, so we might add just a couple of grams of yeast as well, just to make sure that this works, because I hate wasting anything, as we know, and I don't need to make any flatbreads or anything else. So yeah, I'm trying not to contaminate my spatula that I'm using on the starter. So around about 50 grams of starter, which isn't a huge amount either. So because I only did a small amount of starter because I wanted it to do its thing. So we're going to use 50 grams of starter, but I'm going to use about 5 grams of yeast as well. And then we'll just make the other one exactly the same way, and we'll do a slow rise over the day. And we will just see how we go. All right, I forgot I was going to do stock today. I had pulled stuff out of the freezer and split it. I have enough in the freezer to do 2 big batches of stock. So I pulled enough out to do the first batch, and then I will do another batch at some point, because I don't want to waste the amount of chicken to liquid ratio to make it too much of an issue. Now, I believe that this is actually chicken thighs that I was supposed to use for something, and it only got in a freezer bag. It's very badly freezer burnt, and the dogs eat all this scrap anyway. So I'm going to use that as well. So the raw stuff, I'm going to throw in the pan. I'm going to use a little bit of oil this needs refilling. A little bit of oil and salt. And then throw this in the oven at the top temperature for probably half an hour. I'll go in every 10 minutes or so and break it up a little bit, because it's semi-defrosted but not quite fully, and turn it around, and we'll get some colour on this before we throw it all into the pot as stock. All right, we got half a dozen carrots cut up into chunks, 3 onions cut into chunks. I've got celery frozen. I've got some jarred garlic because I've used all my fresh garlic, some rock salt, and some whole peppercorns that we're going to throw in. There is some chicken here that is the rotisserie chickens or chicken wings or marinated chicken thighs or whatever. So that's got lots of flavour on it and lots of connective tissue because they're wings and legs and stuff. And then I've got the other stuff in the oven, which I will grab out.
Now, obviously I could take this even further. We've got some good colour on some of it not so much, but we've got plenty of that cooked chicken to go in there as well, so it'll be fine. We've added some toastiness to this, and then we've got some fat that's come off in the bottom that's going to be added to it as well. So I'm actually adding all of this, as well as this amount. And I've got a few just little bits of scraps here as well. This is going to make me around about, normally I get about 21 litres of stock out of this. So it's a very rich stock. There's plenty of chicken in it. And the dogs get all the scraps as food as well. So I've got the same amount again in the freezer that I'll make another 20 litres worth in a couple of weeks' time when we use the stuff that's on the shelf down. So I'll throw this in, garlic, celery, salt, pepper, fill it up with liquid, turn it on and pressure cook it for 90 minutes. All right, the pressure cooker is on. I have to wait for that to come up to temperature, and then I'll put the weight on it and we'll pressure it for 90 minutes. I've got the 2 bread loaves. Now, I did add the 5 grams of yeast, and this is looking very, very bubbly and ready to go. So I'm going to shape it. I don't want to overproof it, so I'm better off doing it slightly underproofed and doing it in the fridge with that bit of yeast in there. I might have been able to get away without the yeast and left it for longer. I don't know. But we're going to just do whatever works. In the end, we're quite unfussy about our bread, which is beneficial because it allows me to just do what I need to do. So let's do a pre-shape because this is quite a loose dough. We're just going to bring all the wet bits in so that I've got more of a floured side. And I'm just going to bring it in. But now I did find I used to make round loaves all the time, and I realized when I was Googling for some round bannetons that what I used to use was these stainless steel ones. Now these ones have been used directly on the barbecue, which is why they've got that bit of a patina on them, but they're still perfectly usable with fabric in them. So I'm going to use these and see how they go. So whoops, let's just wing it as per usual, because that is what we do, is it not? So again, it's pretty tacky, so I'm just going to do a pre-shape and get the wet side in, floured side out, to allow me to bring it together into a ball. Now, doing this on this dough mat is not always the easiest thing to get the tension on the dough because the dough mat moves, but it's not too bad. That one actually is not too bad straight up. So I'm going to do what I normally do. Line with some semolina, and then we're just going to turn it and place it and make sure that all our bits are done. It's not going to be perfect, we know this. Sprinkle the semolina over the top, close it up, and this will go in the fridge. So, you know, I don't know, I've got some very good bread baking videos out there, and some really good sourdough shaping videos out there. So if you're looking for that sort of thing, go look there, not at this one, because this is definitely not my best. My dough mat is just going everywhere. The dough is really sticky, and I just cannot seem to get a nice, neat surface on the dough, no matter what I do. But I'm going to fridge retard it anyway, so it'll be fine. Bottom is super messy on this one. Super messy. Obviously my hydration was a bit high. Maybe I must have had my scales on wrong or something. I don't know. But it will be fine. It will be fine. So let's get these in the fridge. I'll probably bake them tomorrow morning. So other than that, I'm going to tidy up, keep an eye on my stock, and I'll be back when I'm back. Good morning. It is Monday, and I'm getting a bit of a late start. It is 8:15 the first time that I've come out to the kitchen, so haven't had coffee yet. But I'm about to put breakfast on for the kids. On school holidays, they aren't required to get out of bed until 9 o'clock. So the boys are awake but in their room, and the teens are in bed. So at 9 o'clock they will be told to get themselves out of bed, because that is the rules in my house. 9 o'clock is already later than I'd like, but they're teenagers and it's school holidays. So getting a later start than normal. I'm tired. So Darryl left last Wednesday. He's back sometime today. The kids go to bed later than I would choose to go to bed, and I won't leave them up on their own. So I've been going to bed later. Darryl normally is awake when they go to bed anyway, so he normally stays awake. But because he has not been here, I have had to. So I'm worn out. It's been late nights. I still get up at 6:30 in the morning because that's what I'm set to. The weather hasn't been too bad. It's 11 out here at the moment, so it's perfectly fine. It's a bit cool, but it's perfectly fine. But yeah, it's just, I'm tired. I'm worn out. So I'm going to make Dutch baby for the kids because we have an overabundance of eggs again. So I will do something else with eggs for lunch, probably some sort of scrambled egg breakfast wrap type things or something for lunch, or I don't know, we'll figure it out. I also have the stock from yesterday. It finished pressure canning and coming off pressure at like 5:30 yesterday. So I've just chilled it. I haven't even strained it. So I will probably warm it up to strain it, because it's easier to strain it when it's warm. You get better, like it's you get the liquid better rather than having things sticking to what's inside it. And I like to heat it to can it hot anyway. So I would have strained it and brought it up to temperature anyway. I should have strained it last night, but I didn't. So, and there was plenty of room in the fridge. So I've pulled it out. I've got it sitting on the stove. I'm going to turn it on just to heat up enough to make it easy to strain. And then I'll have to wash jars and get that canned up and hopefully get all that done before Darryl gets home with the tractor. So Dutch babies like normal. Always, I make them regularly, but we've got a cast iron pan, and we're going to put some ghee in the bottom of it. I've turned the oven on already. And we want a good dollop of ghee. This is really hard because, it's getting to 0 overnight. Alright. Should be enough. I'm going to stick this in the oven, set at the top temperature for 20 odd minutes. We want this to heat up. I've got that bread to cook too, so once this is done, the oven will be reheated. So I will throw the bread in as well. Though I probably should. Normally I put everything in cold. The bread bakers, the bread, start on a cold oven. If I'm going to start it hot, I should probably stick the bread bakers in to preheat as well and do a bake from preheated. So yeah, this goes in, this melts, and we'll make the batter up. And I'm waiting for the kettle to boil for coffee. As always, when cooking with your own eggs, we've got some old cartons that we've been using to store them in the fridge, but this is a pretty array of colours in there. As usual, when using your own eggs, cracking them into a bowl first, because the children are the ones who collect the eggs, and who knows sometimes if they've missed them or not. So we always crack them into a bowl first. And the kettle is boiling. Always crack them into a bowl first. It also means we don't wash our eggs because they last longer if you don't wash them. And it does mean, depending on the weather, that sometimes you get some dirty eggs. And by cracking them into a bowl, you can make sure that you're not getting any gunk in your eggs. You can give them a quick clean before you crack them, of course, too. And we do, but just depends on what I'm doing with them and all the rest of it. If they're being cooked, and so yes, always cracked into a bowl before being added to your other ingredients, otherwise you risk wasting all the other ingredients. So we got 12 here, I need 18, so I need another 6. And as per usual, making a mess. Alright, 18 eggs. Now, depending on the day, those eggshells will either be crushed up and fed back to the chickens, or they will be composted. It really just depends on division of labour and the day. It's variable. Okay, and then like normal, 600 grams of milk of choice. I use a tin and a half of coconut cream as my liquid of choice. So 1 tin, and then I'll fill it up halfway, and we will have 600 grams of milk. And then we just add 350 grams of flour. You can add some other add-ins if you want. You can add sugar, you can add salt, you can add like whatever you want, but we do it plain. I'm going to do a pinch of salt, but other than that we do it plain, and then we serve it with sweet stuff. So just going to add the flour, blend it, then we pour it into the really hot cast iron pan, and then I'll show it to you when it's ready, and I'm going to make my coffee. Alright, the Dutch baby's not quite ready, but before I serve it up, it'd be easier to get the bread done and in. So we have our bread to go in. Really need to get a new blade because that's not cutting very well at all. But one loaf to go in, second one. So the bread will go in for 30 minutes, and then I'll take the lid off for 15. Dutch baby is ready to be eaten. So we will cut this up and serve it with whatever they decide they want with it. The bread turned out fantastic. Look at that ear. If I could have got this scored properly, I think that this would have been a really good oven spring on it, and it's my fault that it doesn't have it because I was too lazy to go looking for the right tool for the job, but it'll be fine anyway. With all those extra eggs, we'll probably do like, I should have brushed some of this semolina off too, but it's fine. With all those extra eggs, we'll probably do this with some bacon and eggs or something for lunch, breakfast for lunch, and then we'll see. So I've ended up with like, I get 4 dozen eggs there at least, 5 dozen maybe, and another couple of dozen in the fridge. We just have obviously not been using enough of them, and that's on me. Laziness with making sure that I use them, so we will make sure we use them now. So breads are done. Both of them look pretty much the same. Very hot. So we will just put these on a rack to cool, and then so they stay nice and crunchy. And yeah, not perfect, but they will do what I need them to do. I'm still working on that starter, which again, it's got some lovely activity in there. It's just going to be a matter of getting it nice and strong, so that I don't have to rely on that little bit of added yeast, because that little bit of added yeast means that it tends to overproof a little bit. So anyway, all right, the neighbours are at their property again, which means the dogs are going off. And I'm doing this in a real roundabout kind of way, because normally Darryl washes my jars and stuff for me, and he's not here. So I've just washed jars, I've washed lids, I have them drying. And I'm going to use my Fowler's 27s, which are, I think, about the 680 ml mark. I have found that the quart jars are just a little bit too much sometimes, so I have plenty of these jars ready to go, so I'm going to use these. So these are the Fowler's jars. We're going to pressure can them. I have the Presto going at the moment, so I still have stock in here in the buffalo that needs to be strained out. So the idea was I strained some out, and then I've heated it to simmering, and I've got it hot here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these jars, get them in the Presto, and then keep on going, and hopefully by the time I'll empty this and I'll have this ready to do the next lot. That's the theory. I need to find a funnel. Alright, so I don't skim my stock. I leave the fat, and you can see that there's a separation of fat. Because of that, there's a few things that I do to make sure that these jars work. One of those things is to leave very generous headspace, especially in these 27s, because they narrow so much towards the neck. So I'm very generous with my headspace. The other thing is making sure that we take them up really, really nice and slowly to pressure. So I'm warming up the water in the bottom of the canner because the stock is hot. So we're going to end up with the same temperature in the canner as we have in the jars. I've just cleaned them with some white vinegar. Now Fowler's jars are a bit different to Ball Mason and stuff. They have a rubber ring that goes into the little slot around the outside edges. You make sure it's nice and straight and that it has no grease on it. And then you have a stainless steel reusable lid. This is a 3-inch lid and a 3-inch clip. And you place it like that. And that's the thing. Now the clips, all my clips are rusty. It's like the rings for my Ball Mason jars. It doesn't worry me because they're on the outside of the jars. Now I do prefer to double clip my pressure canned Fowler's jars. I do find it serves me better. You can get some lifting of the lids and stuff, but I'm going to be really careful about bringing these up really slowly, so we should be fine, because there's just so many jars. I'll probably run out of clips, though I do think I bought myself some more. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll double clip this batch and then we'll see how I go with the next one. I could always use some ball jars, but Fowler's only recommends a single clip. Their standards are only a single clip, but they also don't recommend, like, they don't have processes for pressure canning, only for Fowler's method or water bath canning. And I just find that pressure canning, you have more risk, so I find that these clips work better. I also have, so there's a 3-inch lid and there's 3-inch clips, but there are 3.5-inch clips and things like that. None of my clips have any labels on them. There's also glass clips, and each of the clips have slightly different profiles on them, and some fit better than others. So sometimes some of my clips are a little bit looser than I would like, so this is what I do. Personal preference, this is what I do. Fowler's suggests a single clip only, though. So I'm going to go through, get lids and clips on all of these jars, see how many I can fit in the Presto canner, and then I'm going to strain more stock, heat more stock, and follow the process through and decide which other jars I'm going to use and things like that, and fill the shelves up with stock. And then we'll have to turn all of this leftovers into dog food. So, yeehaw! I will say I've got a bit of a technique with these. A lot of people prefer to put the rings on when the jars are empty. I I think that at the time I didn't realize I could do that. So I started doing them while they're full, which I think is beneficial in that you're not going to spill any of the liquids that you're filling the jars with on the rings or between the rings, so they end up nice and clean. But I have ended up with hot liquid all over myself, so there is a risk to it. And that's, yeah, a lot of people do fill them, put the rings on, the rubber rings on empty, and then fill the jars. I never remember. In the end, this is the way I've always done it, so this is the way I tend to do it, because it's just habit now. So, and I just am careful, make sure that my rings are going on properly, slowly, and because I'm using my fingers again, then I give them a quick wipe with the vinegar as well. So that's just a note for anyone who's new to the Fowlers or hasn't seen it before. I do use Fowlers fairly often. I have been relying on ball mason style lately, or lug lids, because I ran out of rings, and the shipping through Fowlers is the same no matter how many you order. Pretty much it goes up if you get to a certain point, obviously. So when I order, I like to order a bulk amount, so I order like a dozen packs of each size and things like that, and I just kept on putting that off because I didn't have the cash to do it, but I did it recently, so I know that what I've got here isn't all I've got. So anyway, gonna keep on going. All right, 8 jars in there. Water is the same temp as the jars. We're gonna take it up to pressure really slowly, do the standard 10 minutes steady stream of steam coming out before we put the weight on, and I'm above 1,000 feet, so I use a 15-pound weight, or 11 pounds of pressure, but I don't use the dial. I tend to use the weight because then I don't have to look at it, I can just listen to it, and we want it to do a slow swing dance, not a tap dance. So that's the goal. So 8 of them in, and then I'll just keep on moving on. Right, so I've got another full pot on the stove, so that did 9.5 jars, so this should do about the same amount. So she could get 19 odd jars, which is around about what I get. I normally get about 20 jars worth of stock per batch. Now, I could definitely reduce the amount of chicken that I'm using in this and have a less rich stock, but the point is that then I just use more stock, you know, sort of thing. Now, the other thing is that this is what's left, right? We turn this into dog food. It has been pressure cooked to the point where these bones can just be squished between your fingers. They just, no shards, no risk to the dogs, right? So this gets pureed up using the Thermomix to turn into dog food. I pull out some of the big bits of onion because yes, onion in large doses can be toxic to dogs. The amount in here is irrelevant for the size of my dogs and quantity that they eat. Got interrupted. So yes, the problem with this is that normally I puree it up into a thick sort of a paste and then freeze it. And then Apollo is the one who feeds the dogs, and he has to pull it out the night before. So he feeds them wet food and pulls fresh wet food out, and then has to remember to feed them the wet food the next day with their dry food. And he doesn't, like, ever. It drives me insane. I pull it out to defrost. I tell him in the middle of the day, remember that wet food's in there, and then he feeds the dogs, comes in and I go, did you use the wet food? And no. So, driving me insane. I was thinking that if I thinned it out enough, I could can it. I don't see why not. I couldn't can it in the viscosity that I normally freeze it in. It's too thick. You wouldn't get even heat penetration. But if I pureed it up and thinned it out so it was like a gravy to have with their biscuits, maybe that would work. And then I could just can it in jar sizes where one jar could be split between the 3 dogs each night. Wouldn't be taking up freezer room, which is a good thing. So, and you can bone in chicken food. The other idea is to jam it into jars without pureeing it first and just add a bit of liquid. But I worry about, like, this has been pressure canned for 90 minutes, everything breaks up. But I also know that dogs wolf things like you wouldn't believe. And so I don't want to risk them getting a piece that's not. But look, this is all just So I feel like it needs to be at least whizzed up. It's been, every time I make it, I think about it. I think about what my options could be. Like, that's a leg bone, and it's just, so, you know, but yeah, I'm going to have a think about it. Other pot of stock is heating. I just cleaned the buffalo, which is the canner that I use to cook the stock in, but is the canner that I need to can the rest of the stock. It's clean and on the stove, ready to go. So I need to finish washing jars. I found more clips, and then, yeah, I'll repeat the process and get them all going. All right, comedy of errors. Bread's done. I'll put a photo in here of it cut up, but I've just made, everyone's just having lunch, which is just fried eggs with a bit of bacon and cheese and fresh mayo on the bread. That's mine to eat. But canner-wise, you can hear the one in the background going far too fast. We're having issues. The Presto canner, it looks like it's got a perished seal on the valve that pops up that holds the pressure. So it gets up to pressure, like it gets to 0 pressure, it pops up, but it leaks, and so it can't get any higher than your 0.5 pressure. So I had to turn it off. I tried a few different things, nothing worked. So I did look at it before I turned it on and noticed that it had some perishing, and was hoping, and I flipped it and was hoping that that would be enough for it to hold pressure, but it wasn't. So I had to turn that off. I'm going to have to swap those into the buffalo, but the buffalo's running the second batch at the moment. Now, it fit all 10 jars, which was great, so I'm only going to have to run 2 batches. I only have to can them for 25 minutes. It's chicken stock. It's clear chicken stock. I've just got it up to pressure, so we've got 25 minutes for that. Now, the thing is, though, that it had just got up to pressure and the gas ran out on the camshaft. So I had to stop it, and we've just taken it back up to pressure again, and that's why it was dancing so fast. Apollo turned it back on for me, and has obviously turned it on full, which is not great for the sealing capacity of these jars. We will see. So those 10 jars are now in there and timing for 25 minutes. It is now 12:30. So it'll be 12:55 by the time I turn that off. It'll take half an hour, 20 minutes for it to come down off pressure. And then I will have to take those jars out, cool the water slightly because the other jars won't be at the same temperature, swap them over, get it back up to pressure, run it for another 25 minutes. Just a bit of a bummer. The dog food I have just stuck in the fridge for the moment. I'm over it. Breakfast, I'm going to eat this while it's lukewarm because I've already fed all the kids. They've already eaten and gone off, and we've tidied the bench up and stuff. So I'm going to sit down and eat mine, finish my coffee that I haven't finished from this morning still. And yeah, do that for the 25 minutes that this will take to can. Now, it's windy today as well, which is the other problem. So you have to run the camshaft at a fairly low, I don't know if you can hear it in the background now, but it's just slow dancing now. It's just going tick, tick. Like, that's how often it's sort of letting a bit of steam out. And but you have to have the burner turned fairly low to maintain that. And of course, if it's windy, anyway, my camera's going flat, my mic is fine. I must have taken it inside and charged it, but my camera is not. So I'm going to take it inside, I'm going to put that on charge, I'm going to eat some breakfast or lunch. We did have Dutch baby, so this is lunch. And yeah. Alright, so it is Tuesday, it's already 11 o'clock. This week is going to be a tricky one. We've got the little mini Dingo, so that takes priority over a lot of other things, though the weather isn't looking great today, but anyway. So we're doing some work up at Mum's place first, and then we have to figure out exactly what we want to get done over the next 5 days. So yeah, that takes priority over most everything else, but I still have to feed everyone. So I tried some sourdough in the proofing box overnight to see if I could maintain the temperature high enough that it would proof overnight, and even by now it's not quite there. So what I've actually done is I've given it a really good stretch and fold and laid it out in a baking tin with plenty of olive oil and put it directly on the heat mat, and it should sort of overproof a little bit, and we might get a edible focaccia out of it. If not, I'm low on breadcrumbs anyway, so it'll get turned into breadcrumbs. But I started another loaf with a high ratio of starter in it, 150 grams worth of starter in it to only a 500 gram flour loaf, and just to see if I can get that to do in a single day in the proofing box,
to cook off tonight to have with dinner, because I'm not sure what I'm doing for dinner. It might be some sort of a soup. Chicken brown rice soup is really nice. We haven't had that in ages. So I'm going to pull some chicken out of the freezer and let it defrost, but it's not going to defrost completely. But having it in soup will make it less tough, because sometimes when you fast defrost chicken it just ends up tough. So yeah, but I was thinking that there's no scrolls left, no muffins left, nothing like that, so maybe I should quickly throw on a batch of muffins for the kids, so that there is some quick and easy snacks as well. We do have some bread left from yesterday, but the kids, normally I store my cut bread this side down on a board and it stays fairly fresh. You just toast this piece and that's fine. One of the kids moved it to a rack, so it's been open air on this side, so it's still plenty soft enough, the rest of it, but it's going to be a bit tough, so I need to figure out what I'm going to do with that bit too. I could just cut it up and toast it with some garlic butter or something. The kids will eat it with an egg or something, so might do that for lunch. I'll see how I go. All the chicken stock got finished yesterday, so that's all good. I just need to wipe the jars down, take the clips off. So they've been resting for 24 hours. Take the clips off, check the seals, wipe the jars down, get them on the shelf. So at least that was done. I did have some siphoning in the second batch, but that's because I had to take it up to pressure. It didn't maintain pressure. I had to drop it off pressure. Then I had to bring it back up to pressure in the second canner. Never a good thing. So I'll closely check all the seals on those, but those ones will go to the front of the shelf and they're the ones that we will use first, and if any failed, I'll use them for soup tonight. I still haven't decanted my miso. It's still sitting in the tubs. It's nice and cool now and it's clean, so it's okay. It's not fermenting any further in this type of temperature, but I do need to do that. I also found, when we were cleaning up the kitchen, I also found my 2 jars of vanilla extract. These really need to be decanted and the vanilla pods either consolidated and vodka'd for another 12-month batch, or I need to turn them into vanilla bean paste. But I did just buy myself a new 1 kilo thing of vanilla bean paste recently from New Genie Naturals, like I normally do. So I might just consolidate all the beans into a bit of a mother jar and start that. I think I've got some fresh beans still sitting in vacuum seal bags, so I could start a fresh batch, consolidate these and start a mother batch. I don't have any vodka at the moment, so I need to get some more. But yes, I did find these and it's a lovely colour. So I've got that to decant to be used. We still have heaps of eggs too, so we're getting about 12 to 18 a day at the moment, which is fine because we eat a lot anyway, but we did have a bit of a backlog where I just wasn't using them as much as I should have been, so I need to figure something out with that. And Sonnet's been nagging for chocolate pastries. So we'll see. I don't know. Wonky week. So I've just put all that bread in the proofing box for the moment anyway. I might go back up and check what they need and then come back down and sort out some lunch and some muffins or something. But just double check that they don't need me up there for anything. I have the 2 teenagers up there with Darryl to help shift anything as he's using the Dingo, and Mum is working, but she's available up there as well. So, yeah. We also have bits and pieces that we still need to get done in this kitchen here that we can't do until, well, we've got the Dingo, because the Dingo is costing us, so that's a priority too. Some sort of a plane going overhead and the dogs are barking at the plane. But yeah, so bread's done, starters refed. I'll go and check with them and then I'll come back to the kitchen and see what else needs doing. All right, it's now 12:15. So I'm going to quickly throw together some lunch for everyone. We're going to do breakfast burrito type thing, just a protein burrito type thing. So I've got the end of a packet of bacon. You can hear the turkeys in the background probably. That's because Darryl's running the tractor around where they are. They're not impressed by being relocated. So I'm just going to dice up some of the bacon. We'll get that in the pan. I've got an open packet of
hot dog sausages here. I was going to use some Kransky, but I've got open hot dog sausages, so I'm just going to dice some of them up as well. Alright, so we'll just cook that bacon off. We'll grab one of these is open. Oops, so we've got half a dozen sausages. These are the chicken pork mix ones, which are really tasty. They each come in individual plastic, which is annoying, but whatever. And then we'll cut these up nice and fine as well. Slice them in half and just dice them into little bits. They'll get nice and crispy, good texture. Oh my goodness, the dogs. And then I'm just going to crack like 24 eggs into a bowl. We'll scramble them up. If I've got some sour cream in the fridge, I might add a little bit of sour cream to the eggs. I don't normally add anything but for this purpose, to keep them nice and soft. Alright, so we've got a few optional toppings. We have the scrambled eggs, sausage, bacon, cheese, corn mix here. We've got chili oil, we've got mayo, and we've got apple butter barbecue. So I'll do Darryl's first and get them on the pan, because he came down for a break. So he has low carb wraps. I'm going to put a little bit of mayo on his, like that, and then some filling sort of thing. Oop, making a mess. Cheese is melting like that. We will grab some chili oil because the apple butter barbecue is not low carb. So some of the crunchy bits from the chili oil, and then we will burrito these and get them on the pan. And then I will find the wraps for everyone else, and we will do that as well. Same thing, a couple of different toppings, some for Mum as well, and I'll toast them up and we will have them for lunch.
Hey everyone, alright, it is, what day is it? It is Wednesday. I didn't even come back to the kitchen yesterday from whenever I spoke to you. I don't know. We did leftover bolognese for dinner. And yeah, still using the digger. We got the trench dug for the leachate pit for Mum's place, and that has all been sorted. So her composting toilet is now doing everything it needs to do, which has been an ongoing process. So that is finished. So Darryl is now clearing some space around the house. So some of the dirt piles have just impeded a little bit when we've had people clear things. So he's clearing those up so that we've got a bit more distance to move around the house, but also the garden space is going to be cleaned up. And I think Apollo is doing some work on the chicken pens. So we've got a lot of bits and pieces going on. I have a big D&D job that I'm trying to get through as well at the moment, which we want to get done in the lead up to the next grocery shop, because then that helps with funding the grocery shop. So we're doing that, making the most of having the 2 weeks where I don't leave the house for the office. But I'm having some significant issues with my hands and stuff, so I'm going to probably have to book another doctor's appointment, have a look at my meds and stuff, because I'm struggling a little bit with a lot of my standard tasks. Anyway, I attempted a fully sourdough loaf without any yeast in it yesterday, and I thought it looked all right, but I pulled it out this morning, put it in the oven, and it's not looking great. So that might end up being breadcrumbs. We will see, but I might mix up another one. The starter, it's looking fantastic, so I'm not real sure. Don't know. I might stick a probe inside the dough when I'm bulk proofing it this time and see whether the proofing box is actually maintaining it at that 21 to 24, like the dough at the 21 to 24, or if it's only the ambient temperature and the dough is still staying too cold, and then my timing is off. If we do I don't know, this is far more mathematical than I like to get with sourdough, but until my starter is roaring and until I get back into a rhythm. If we do about a 20% dough, so I use say 100 grams of starter to a 450 gram flour ratio, 350 odd grams of water, then it should take 4 to 6 hours to bulk proof at 21 to 24 Celsius. A lot of maths in there unnecessarily, which is why I went back to using yeast. And I'm actually going to mix up some yeast. I'm going to mix up some slider rolls or something to have for dinner tonight. I'll pull some mince out. Maybe we'll do hamburgers for dinner tonight. Something really, really easy. So I'm going to make some hamburger rolls, but I'm going to mix some yeasted brioche up. But because the starter is doubled and nice and bubbly, I'm going to mix up some dough and run the proofing box while it's nice and sunny. I do actually have, so I didn't film the process of it because I'm fiddling, but I had a sous vide on my wish list on Amazon, and it was bought for me. It was a couple of months ago now, and I hadn't had a chance to pull it out. So it's a nice sunny day today. The kids aren't on computers because it's not a school day, so I decided to give it a go. I've plugged it into the Tapo unit, which actually tracks the real-time power usage of it as well, so that I can track how much power it uses. I've put it inside a container inside one of the insulated shopping bags. I don't have a set container for it yet, so I don't have a lid with a cutout or anything like that. So I've got a towel over the top of it, inside an insulated shopping bag, and I froze those ages ago. I made them. They were skin on chicken breasts, and I put soy, ginger, garlic in the bags and vacuum sealed them and froze them. So we're going from frozen. So we're going 2 hours at 64 degrees Celsius, and then I'm going to fry off the skin, pat them dry and fry off the skin, and we will see how they go. And that will be lunch by the time that's done. The bread that comes out of the oven may be edible with it, but I'm finding it unlikely. It just did not look right this morning after it's cold proof. So we will mix up another batch of sourdough using that 20%, just a single loaf using that 20% starter. I'm going to stick a probe in it in the proofing box. After all the stretch and folds, we're going to get it to the optimal proofing temperature and proof it for 6 hours, and then fridge retard it and see how it goes tomorrow. If I can build that routine, I won't have to temp it every time. If I can get it right, like if I temp it now and make sure that I'm setting everything right, then in future all it is mixing it up, throwing it in the proofing box, and then knowing that I pull it out in the middle of the afternoon and stick it in the fridge for the night. And I can do multiple loaves at that point and things like that. But I need to figure it out first. So yeah, and then I'll mix up some brioche dough, and then I don't know what the rest of the day will bring. But yeah,
Bit of a hard day today. Darryl's still, as I said, doing on the Dingo, coming and going for conversations, and me to go out and assist and check and all the rest of it. And I've never been very good at filming any of that, mostly because our environment just isn't great, and I always get comments, so I don't like to show too much of it. But this is the brioche dough done, so we will have sliders, hamburger or something out of this for dinner. It's a very wet dough, the brioche dough. It's up on the website, this one. But it makes for some gorgeously fluffy and soft brioche rolls. So we're going to put this in here to proof. I've got the sourdough loaf here that I'm stretching and folding before we attempt to put a probe in it and bulk proof it and see what it does. The sous vide is still going with the chicken, and I also mixed up a small batch of low carb roll dough for Darryl using the King Arthur keto wheat flour, so I'll do a couple of rolls for him out of that as well. And the other bread came out of the oven. It looks okay. I don't know. Let's cut it open and see if it's edible or not. Can you grab my bread knife for me? The crust is very crusty. I probably left it unopened a little bit long and it feels very heavy. I don't think it's going to be very great. But we will see. It's cooked, but it is cooked. It's just pretty dense, but the kids can eat some of it if they want. Otherwise, I'll let it cool and crisp up and I'll turn it into breadcrumbs. But it's pretty heavy. So getting there, the starter obviously wasn't, this dough obviously wasn't quite bulk proofed enough. We will give it another go. Alright, so this is the, can you just turn that off? It's just on its timer on the top somewhere. So 2 hours at 63. Now I'm going to test the internal temperature because it was done from frozen, so we're figuring this out. And then the theory is that I can reseal it if it needs to go in for longer, but I am going to sear it too, so. Alright, it's reading 63, which is the temperature that it needed to be at to, like, that's the temperature it's been maintaining at. It feels fine. So now we're just going to the breast out and we're going to pat the skin dry and then fry it off in a bit of oil in this hot pan, and we will slice it up and see what it's like. And I'll pull the other ones out as well. Alright, so we browned it off slightly, probably not enough for the skin to be particularly edible, but we will
eat it anyway.
Yeah. And this is what it's looking like. So it looks pretty good. Texture looks good, doesn't look too squishy. Looks like cooked chicken, so let's, Darryl will, you know, taste test. It's such a hardship.
Oh no. It's terrible. I'll eat it all first.
So yeah, that's an option in. Now, in regards to the cooking process, the power usage, it used about 800 watts when it was heating up initially because I put hot water in it first, but it wasn't quite at temperature. But after that, so it used about 0.45 of a kilowatt hour of battery all up. So that's really not that much for a 2-hour cook. So, and it used, yeah, the majority of it was used right at the very beginning when it was heating up that water, and then once it was maintaining the water, it was fine. So we had some chicken and noodles for lunch. We got the brioche dough was ready. The sourdough internal temperature is sitting at like 25, so that's perfect. So that means that by like 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon, it should be right at a point that I can shape it and fridge retard it. That's the idea anyway, and we'll see if we get a better result. The kids still ate the bread. It is edible, it's just not great. So we're getting there. Now, this is the low carb dough, and it's always a really strange one. The texture of it is strange, the look of it is strange, but it turns into quite a decent roll. So I did a half batch, which ends up being 450. So smaller, flatter rolls are what we decided were better. So we might go 70 grams and get 6-ish out of it, and then flatten them out nicely so that they're more that hamburger shape than the because the first time I did them, they ended up very high, and they ended up a lot of bread on each side, and a bit too much. So the idea is to try and get them to sit flat so that they're less. So if we do 70, I've got a bit extra here that I'll just split between the smaller ones, and then I'll shape them up. All right, I've shaped them small, round, somewhat flat, but slider style buns. When you're doing low carb, less bun, more meat is good anyway. This is the brioche dough, which is always a bit sticky. We use a bit of flour to try and give us a non-sticky part to work with. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to split it first and stick some back in the bucket so it doesn't dry out. Now what we want is we want hamburger rolls for dinner. Now 7 of us, because Darryl's having his and we got mum included, so let's make it so that we want 14 rolls. We don't all eat 2 rolls for a dinner, 2 hamburgers obviously, but it gives us a spare one for tomorrow as well. And then I'll turn the rest into a tray of sliders. I'll work out however many I need to do for that. So if we've got our hamburgers, I vary them in sizing. It's 80, I think 80 will be fine. We'll go with 80. And all we'll do is similar sort of thing. We want them flat like hamburger rolls, so I'm going to put them on just a baking sheet like what I did the low carb ones. Piece of baking paper. And we've got our rolls. I'm going to just put them in a little bit of flour before I put them down so that they can be shifted if need be. And then I'm just going to do, so how many did I say I needed? There's 7 of us, so I need 14 or 15. So like I might just, I've got the other half of the other tray here. I normally put 12 on a tray so that they can spread out nicely. So I think I'll do that, 12 on here and a few extra on the other tray, and then I'll weigh whatever I've got left and do them into the sliders, and we can have that as lunch tomorrow or the next day with filled. The pizza filling was quite nice. Ham and mayo is always nice. I don't think we've got any ham left at the moment. There might be some in the freezer. But yeah, so I'm just going to do that. I'm glad the sous vide worked. I now know that I can get that, and power usage was not very high once I got it heated up. And I could start with a kettle full of water too. I could start with boiling water. It wouldn't even take much to, because the issue is that even once you get it up to temperature, when you add the frozen stuff to it, obviously the temperature reduces and then it has to work its way back up to that temperature. So I might trial run the next thing I do with that. I do have some duck breasts in the freezer that I haven't really known what to do with. I think Mum bought them from Costco at one point and didn't end up using them, and we moved them here when she moved here so that I could cook them up, because she froze them all as one big pack, which is too much for her. But I could sous vide them and we could have that with some sort of an Asian stir fry, or I could turn them into spring rolls. That would be nice. Sous vide it and then turn it into the filling for spring rolls or something. So yes, thank you very much. I would have the tag of the person who sent it to me if they put their name on it. Not everyone puts their names on them, but I do keep the little gift tags in a drawer so that I can go back over them. But I can't remember off the top of my head. It was a while ago that it came. I'm super excited, but I just didn't get a chance to use it until now. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, I'm just going to get this done. Let them proof again. We'll egg wash them, stick them in the oven. And I pulled mince out, but I'd be really lucky if it's defrosted, because I should have pulled it out last night, so we'll see. I just talked through my whole process then and didn't have the camera on. So there's about 1,200 grams of dough here, but I think I'm just going to do 1 tray of the sliders, and I think I'm going to do about 50 grams, and I'm going to fit 20 on there, I think. So I think I'll end up with just a touch more dough than I need, but that's fine because there's room on the hamburger bun tray. So I'm just doing little 50-gram balls. So we ended up with 20 of these little tiny 50-gram rolls and 20 large rolls, actually. So that's a good sort of a number. And I'm just going to cover these up as well and let them proof. All right, so it's now 5 o'clock. Well and truly sidetracked, as per usual. We've got slider rolls. So these are going to be put away to use tomorrow. Tomorrow for lunch, probably. We'll do stuffed sliders for lunch. And then we have hamburger rolls. So nice hamburger rolls. The other tray, I ended up with these ones a little bit too close together because I had to add them later anyway. And these are the low carb ones. So they have turned out pretty well. They're nice and light. So that's the hamburger buns done. We've been doing more with the loader thing. I'm going to help Darryl a whole bunch with it tomorrow. The mince is mostly defrosted, so that's good. I'm going to get this into a bowl. We're going to add some salt and some onion powder to it so that we can make hamburger patties. And we will probably just have these with cheese and pickles and mustard and tomato sauce, just as like a Macca's style hamburgery thing. I don't think I've got much in the way of any sort of salads at the moment. I could fry some eggs with it. We'll see how we go. All right, so it's Thursday. This video, as I said, completely all over the place. It just... Anyway, I made those buns. We had hamburgers last night. I don't think I even took any footage or anything of them at all. Can't remember. I did Dutch baby for breakfast. I think I've got some footage here of it out of the oven just because I remembered to do that. So we had Dutch baby. I cooked that loaf of bread that I tried to start yesterday. Again, not a whole lot of success. It's going to be very dense, but I'm hoping to make that soup for dinner tonight. So this will probably be perfectly fine with that soup. It's going to be dense and heavy, but I'm going to try again because I moved my starter to a clean jar and put a band on it so I could definitely see what it's doing. So this is definitely doubled. So we're going to give it a go again. And just see how we go, because that is definitely a doubled starter. So there should be no reason that at a dough temperature of 24-25 degrees it shouldn't bulk proof in 6-ish hours. So it's now 12 o'clock. So if I mix this up now, stretch and fold all the way through to say 2, and then bulk proof it from 2 till 8 or 9 o'clock when I'm ready to start thinking about bed, and shape it and stick it in the fridge. We shall see. We're going to give it another go. Because yeah, it's frustrating me that I used to be able to do sourdough perfectly all the time without any of this scientific aspect to it, and now all of a sudden I just cannot get one to work properly. The bread is edible. It's definitely edible. It's just not to the standard I would like, and not to the standard that I could make anything but a loaf out of it at the moment. Like, making these loaves is fine because they're just to be cut up and used as toast or with soup and things like that. But I used to make my bagels with it. I used to make my English muffins with it, my pizza doughs and all that sort of thing, and I can't yet until I figure it out. So I'm just going to mix up another standard dough and get that in the proofing box, and then I need to decide what else I need to get done. I'm going to have to make that soup, so that chicken will be defrosted now, so I could start that soup in the next couple of hours. I will start a chicken soup up of some sort. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm going to mix this up anyway. Alright, as has been of this week, I got sidetracked. So I made the breadcrumbs with the leftover bread from yesterday. I need to get this in the freezer, so we just ground them up into some nice coarse breadcrumbs. I've just put 2 of the big super cube things of myrrh into a pot with some oil. I'm going to add a bit of salt to get these to cook down. I've got the chicken that wasn't quite defrosted from yesterday that I need to cut up because we're going to make soup. I'm going to scrounge to see what else I've got in the way of soup potential ingredients. Not much, I don't think. Which is why I'll probably do like a brown rice soup. That'll give us body to the soup. Because I don't have potato or anything to put in there. I probably have some carrots, but I don't know how many because the kids eat them as snacks all the time. I got some zucchini, but zucchini's not always a great soup thing. It can give it some weird consistency. I've probably got some jars of soup actually that could be used on the shelf, so maybe I'll add them in as well, which gives me some diced vegetables that's in the jars, as well as the stock that's in there to add to the overall liquid capacity. But first off, I'm going to grind them down. My sourdough has been like neglected. I haven't done much in the way of any sort of stretch and folds or anything, and it's now 3 o'clock, so I might do another one in half an hour because I just did a bunch of them now, another one in half an hour, and then I'm just going to leave it. That's 3:30, and I want to leave it for at least 6 to 8 hours. From 9:30 it's probably the latest I'll go to bed. I could just leave it to overproof and we could make focaccia out of it tomorrow and see what it does overnight. Maybe that's the plan for this one, is that I'll just do my last stretch and fold and then I'll just leave it in the proofing box, which will not be able to maintain its temperature overnight. So the temperature will drop and it'll slow down the fermentation, and maybe it'll just overproof and I'll have focaccia in the morning. Who knows? It's a week, so but yeah, I'll bring you back. Alright, I diced the chicken, seasoned, put it in the pot with the mirepoix and stock, and we're just going to let that simmer for a good 30 minutes to break that chicken down into more tender pieces. In the meantime, I mixed up a new batch of my master muffin mix. I'll try and remember to put the link to the video for this one. With the protein powders and everything already in it, and we're going to make some muffins. Now I'm going to try the orange again. So I'm going to make enough for 24 muffins, but I'm going to do it in one batch because I want to add an entire jar of the orange. So I'm also going to hold back a little bit on this mix to add some cocoa, because we're going to do like double chocolate orange. So let's put 50 grams of coke, probably more, it's a double batch, isn't it? So I held back a bit of the dry mix, and then I put 100 grams of cocoa in, and then the jar of oranges, which is going to have moisture in it. So this is boiled and canned oranges. We did get some oxidization on the top of them because it was exposed, so just a little bit discolored on the top, but it doesn't affect the flavor or use of them, especially not in this. So we're going to throw the whole jar in, which, let's have a look at what the weight of a whole jar is. .400 grams of oranges. I'm going to put 4 eggs in rather than 2. So normally I would only add 1 egg per dozen, but I'm going to put 4 in because the last lot I made was just a touch dry. So we're going to bump the eggs up, make them a bit more brownie-like. Probably should have got a bigger bowl, but that's fine. 4 eggs. We're going to add our oil, and I'm just going to use the mild olive oil that I always use. And so with these batches, it's 125 grams of oil per, so 250. You could use butter or whatever if you wanted. I find the easiest thing with muffins is just to use the oil, and cost-wise, olive oil and butter, very, very similar. Vegetable oil is even cheaper, but I don't buy a whole lot of vegetable oil. So now we need some milk, and then we're going to mix this up, have a look, and we're going to add a whole bunch of chocolate chips to it. I was actually going to try adding some yogurt to this recipe, but I don't have any at the moment. I need to make some. So, and we want 500 grams of this. All right, so that's our entire muffin batter mix. It's the season that oranges should be fairly available next shopping trip, and if they are, and I can get this working, these muffins working, I will definitely can more oranges because I love orange flavour and things, but it was figuring out what to use it in, not just the chocolate orange almond cake, because that's a bit decadent to be eating all the time. It's more of a treat cake than a everyday cake. I'm just trying to make sure there's no dry flour in here, but I should have used my KitchenAid because holding spoons is really not my thing at the moment. I have to get used to the fact that things have gone downhill a bit, and some of the stuff that I would normally do manually, I really can't do anymore. So that's what we've got. Looks like a good texture for a muffin, and I'm gonna add some white chocolate and some milk chocolate chips just because I feel like it, because I really just feel like something rich at the moment, and I'll bake them off while I'm waiting for soup to be ready to add next sort of stuff and all that sort of thing. So all right, the muffin bars are in the oven. The soup is still simmering. I am going to cut this bread just to see how edible it is, out of curiosity, to have with this soup, or whether I need to figure something else out or what. Now the crust is very tough on it. Looks a little underproofed, potentially undercooked too by the looks of it. It's cooked, it's doughy, it's underproofed. So, I don't know, the kids will probably still be happy to eat it, but I do have those slider rolls, so I was just wondering if maybe I just do like cheese and garlic slider rolls to have with the soup. Because the soup's pretty plain too, and it's a fairly thin soup, so maybe that's what I'll do since I didn't use them for lunch today, because yeah, this is very, very gummy. Underproofed still, so I don't know, we'll see what the next batch does. Alright, so I used a couple of tins of corn, some potato flakes, a little bit of cream, thickened it right up to a chowdery type consistency. So this is really nice. It's just a thick stocky soup, like it's just a pleasant wintry type soup. Okay, now I cut off, so there ended up being 20 of the 20 of the sliders in that batch. It's a slightly different size container, but anyway, so I've just cut 8 of them off, and then I've got some two leftover hamburger buns and Darryl's leftover buns. So I'm going to do all of these like the slider rolls. I've got a little bit of grated cheese here. I don't need much. We're just adding some moisture to the bread as it heats up. And then I've got some garlic butter softening as well. And everything is running out of battery. And yeah, it's getting late, and yeah, this is what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna do this like I do the normal sliders. Some cheese, salted garlic butter on top, like that. Put a bit of foil over it initially, put it in the oven as I get the muffins out and heat that up, and that can be the sides with the soup.